It's the old Doctor Who show, episode number 75, The Curse of Fenric.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, baby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows, and the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
But the TARDIS is more than a machine, Stephen. It's like a person, you see.
Resulting reaction, describe it. Are you ready?
Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, your classic tri-weekly Doctor Who review podcast. This may be the last time I say it. Like, what's the point? You obviously know what you're listening to. And if you don't, you're probably somewhere, I imagine, like a bunch of old people, like in a nursing home of some kind, and they've stained themselves because their family no longer loves them. And there's just like an angry orderly that's playing it over his head, like in Say Anything, and it's just our podcast. And they're like, well, my life is in ruins, but I wish I knew what this show is about. And thank God I'm there to say it's a tri-weekly classic Doctor Who podcast. Dan, how are you today?
Eric, I'm doing much better than those old people in your fantasy you got.
I know, it's sad. We should treat our elders with better care.
Really, that's what we're going to talk about this entire episode.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some Fenric. Do you have anything to load up, preload?
Well, this is a very minor thing, but it was fun for me, so I'm going to share it. I got invited to go see the world premiere of the first episode of the final season of Game of Thrones in Radio City
how did
Music
that
Hall
happen?
With all the cast was there. It was amazing. I have some friends that work for HBO, so I was invited as a guest. And it was a fancy friggin' affair with a red carpet that I barely kind of got to see a little bit of. But no, it was in Radio City Music Hall, which is incredible. Got to see the entire... I know this is not a Game of Thrones podcast, but maybe it should be.
It is now.
It is now. But it was the best episode they've done in a really long time. I think so.
Really?
It was a super satisfying episode, especially after, a year wait or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's been several years. Now, they are completely off book at this point, too, right? They're beyond the Black Rainbow. They're
doing it Christopher Guest style, where they're just making it up as they go along. Everything is improvised. The entire story is improvised as they go.
Well, that's very cool, because my wife, who follows you on Instagram, was like, Dan's at the Game of Thrones premiere. And I was like, that's odd. And I assumed it was maybe something with your work, but so people that are on...
just
work
at
on the
HBO.
show.
Yeah,
right,
no,
or work at HBO. Got you.
Just work at HBO. So
that's very cool.
It was awesome to see it with, the cast was there. Like, it was cast from, the first season who, got killed off. They brought back everyone. But they were sitting, 30, 40 rows ahead of me.
Yeah, that's like
so
three or four buses of people that were killed off on that show. I mean, the blood runs deep over.
It was very cool.
Land.
But it was nice to be able to see it while when an actor came onto the screen for the first time, the entire audience full of nerds were just like, woo! And it was cool because that person was literally right there in the same room.
He just turned around and shoved everybody.
Everyone
angry,
shut up.
Come on.
Shoving his face with popcorn. Anyway, so that was fun. I've never done something like that before. So
all right. Well, Dan saw the premiere of the Wizards and Dragons show.
Wizards and Dragons.
Wizards, Dragons, and Sex. Which is the trifecta.
That's what we're all looking. I've been waiting for more of that in my classic Doctor Who, and apparently that just never happened.
Yeah, there's not a lot of dragon sex, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depends on which way you're looking.
Maybe it's in the novelizations.
It depends on which side of the dragon you're on. If you all right, so let's jump into the Curse of Fenric, because I got nothing.
Neat.
All right. Hit the button, Dan. Sweet mama.
What's happened?
The wolves of Fenric, descendants of the Viking who first buried the flask, all pawns in my game. Dr. Judson, Commander Millington, the Ancient One, Captain Sorin, and now you.
Me. You can't. How?
The baby. In 30 years, the baby will be grown. She will have a daughter. That daughter will be you. You've just created your own future.
This is The Curse of Fenric, Dan. It is the third serial of the 26th season, lucky number 26. That's the final season. It's from 1989, the end of a decade. For fans of math that may want to jump in on that. It was written by Ian Briggs and directed by Nicholas Mallet, although I had read or I'd seen on Wikipedia, so if you made this update, bravo, that JNT had done some directing. Jan Michael Vincent, R.I.P. The Doctor and Ace visit a British naval station that is conducting code-breaking exercises during World War II. The base is run by Commander Millington and his crippled BFF, and the two share a lot of laughs, as well as a love for ancient Viking folklore, which leads them to a side project, interpreting Viking glyphs underneath an old church in the hope that it can lead to cash and prizes. Meanwhile, a group of Soviet soldiers is plotting on stealing England's super code-breaking machine Ultima. There's also vampires, an undersea menace, and a lot of commie propaganda. Dan, what did you think of Curse of Fenric?
I was very confused by this story.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there was a lot going on. Maybe I wasn't confused. But so much as it just felt like there was a lot of story crammed into these 4 parts, which normally isn't the case. I usually feel like there's way too much. Everyone, I've said this literally probably every single episode we've recorded for the past 3 years, but I think there's just a lot going on here, and maybe it was just because they didn't seem to be cohesive parts. They just kind of, I don't know. I guess I'm very conflicted. I want you to tell me how I felt about this, because this is what happens every time. I come into it with one set of feelings, and you totally change my mind. So,
well,
Eric, more importantly, what did you think of this story?
It starts, the first half is stronger than the second half. I'll throw that out there. I felt like the first 2 parts were super tight, solid, and the back half, like 3 and 4, get a little convoluted and a little, like, it's a little much. Still excellent. I thought it had great mood. You've got the fog coming off the water, and you've got like the D-Day thing, but also Jaws going on. So you've got that undersea camera stuff, and just, you don't see the merman, fishman, creature from the Black Lagoon, but you see, is it part of the Viking ship? It's like the mast of the Viking ship that's sort of like floating out there. That was very cool. I don't know. I just thought it was. I thought all the acting I thought was really good.
Yes.
I liked all of the interchain character stuff. There's a lot of stuff with Ace. Obviously, we'll get into her whole mysterious origin stuff and all of that. There's a lot of weird Dr. Ace stuff that we'll have to get to. I mentioned the communist propaganda. There's a lot of it. At one point, she wears the pin of the hammer and sickle, right? She's wearing, he gives it to her, and then the workers unite and like they look at each other and are like, workers over, whatever. I thought that I don't know, it was just fun. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think I understand most of it. There's the bit about the hieroglyphs being not hieroglyphs. What are the Viking?
Yes,
it's not
cuneiform or whatever it is. But yeah,
whatever, fans of language. I didn't quite understand, like, all of a sudden Ace figures out, oh my god, it's a logic puzzle, it's a computer program.
Yeah, right? That was a huge leap. The doctor knew that
too, and she's like, why didn't you tell me it's a computer program? I'd be like, why didn't you tell me what you're talking about? Because that's like, computer program for what?
Yeah.
Not quite sure.
I do not know.
Okay,
I do not know. That's the most confusing part to me.
Yeah. Then there's the whole Fenric thing, and how Fenric knows the doctor, and he had banished him to the Shadow Realm or whatever.
Yep.
So was that a computer? I don't understand how the whole computer. There's a lot of these kind of questions that I have, but I thought it was fun. I thought it was good. I liked it. for the most part. I thought I thought it started really strong. First 2 episodes I thought were solid. I thought the pacing was great. I thought it was everything was sort of working, and then the second half was like, okay, and then all of a sudden you have all these disparate elements, like, you know, like the vampires that have their hemo something with, they're just like going through a dictionary, find some word that means blood, and then you applied it to an alien. And then you have the fishmen, who are also the vampires.
Yeah.
But they're susceptible to faith, belief.
That was
in
okay. So that was the one part that that's what I had the most problem with, really. Yeah.
There's the whole priest or a vicar or whatever that loses his faith, which is an interesting concept. Doesn't necessarily really go anywhere. He just gets mauled to death by
killed.
Zombie vampires. So there's a lot of like all of that all at once, you know? And then there's like, you know, and added to the mix is just these wandering Soviet soldiers. Yeah. And then Nazi imagery. Because like the guy that looks like Ian McKellen but is not.
Commander Millington,
Milligan is like trying to get in the Nazi headspace so that he creates... And this I don't understand. He creates an office as if it was a Nazi office, a big picture of Hitler, which I'm sure he special ordered. But the doctor says, like, it's down to the minute detail of what's in the office. Like,
files in the cabinet.
How good is their intelligence that they would know exactly how of office layout would be for whatever. That was a little strange because they have all that
one
Nazi
photo
stuff
on the wall being with Millington and Dr. Judson.
Yes,
like, but why that?
The Nazis have really nothing to do with this, other than it's World War II, and the Soviets and the Britain are allies. But you know, it's also airing in '89, so it's the height of the Cold War too. So I don't know. It was just a little strange to have the Nazi stuff. I guess they had it laying around from previous stories, and they're like, "We got," because it was the same setup as what was the other Nazi story we did?
Oh, right. The Boys from Brazil. What was that? What was that?
Yeah,
one?
Well, I don't remember what that one was. It was another Ace one, right? It was maybe they just had that stuff lying around. They're like, just put it up in his office. And then all the stuff about chess. I still don't quite understand how Milligan, who is really, I mean, his whole buy-in is because he was on a ship, or he had a relationship with the crippled code breaker. And something happened
Dr.
between
Judson.
the two of them, and he ended up in a wheelchair. But they're both aware of this myth of Fenric, right? And it's going to bring the gold or the jewels of the Orient, some like really randomly generic thing, is going to bring it back to the Maiden's Point, and they're going to use that for power or for weapons or whatever. But how does he? It's a little unclear. How does he know that there's a chess component to it? Because he orders that all the chessboards are destroyed on the base. Like, it would make more sense if Fenric had somehow possessed somebody and then ordered that.
Yes,
but he doesn't really know. Like, that, it doesn't happen until later that the crippled guy can walk, and he's, you know, Fenric
taken over by
in flesh.
Yeah,
that was a little weird. And even when he found a chessboard, he set it up, but the other guy had it was just like. Wasn't that weird? The whole chess thing was a little.
I don't understand how. You're right. How would he have known about that? And why did? So he had one in his office, and it was booby trapped with both a bomb and the
and the smoke,
toxic gas.
It didn't harm Ace at all, and they're just big mouthfuls of it.
Covered in it. Yeah,
they are just vaping.
They were fine. But so he had the chessboard there, and I don't know what he was doing with it. It didn't seem like it was set up because the doctor's set up for the challenge that he originally had proposed to Fenric that caused him to, not be able to solve and get banished to the Shadow Realms, whatever. It wasn't the same setup on that board. It was just a chessboard. And so why did he have to have them all destroyed? I don't have any idea.
He orders, so it's like, okay, well then the doctor needs the chessboard, because if he sets up a chessboard, the guy can't say no to it, right? He has to, it's like a weird, like, I don't know why he has to, but he has to solve. Right? It's kind of silly. Like, can't he just say, I don't feel like playing your game?
Yeah.
He's supposedly trapped in the shadow realm because the doctor gave him this chess puzzle that he couldn't figure out.
Right. That was the deal. If he couldn't solve it, then he was banished. So
but then he is somehow released from it via this whole Wolves of Fenric thing. Like his offspring have gone out into the world to
somehow cursed, which I'm not actually sure what the curse itself is.
They all die down or something.
Sure,
because you have like the grave. They keep showing the gravestones.
Well, I mean, that was over centuries. So, like this Viking settlement, they had carried this container that somehow has Fenric in it or whatever. So that's the curse, and now Fenric, it's carried down through the generations, and they're all. I don't know. So that makes them the Wolves of Fenric, which makes them more susceptible to him taking them over?
This is what we call classic reverse old Doctor Who show, where you've now brought me into completely...
Okay, cool.
Usually it's the other way around. I can bring you in. But the more you think about it, because it's like the creature from the Black Lagoon people, I forget what their names are.
They are the Hemivores.
The Hemivores aren't necessarily... they only sort of work with Fenric. Like, Fenric tells them to do this thing, which then destroys the Earth, which in the future, when they rule the Earth is poisoned, right?
Right.
So they're this other element to the curse of Fenric. Like, because they're the things coming out of the sea that's attacking people.
Right.
Through centuries. And then somehow making them vampires, which they're not vampires, but... they're underwater creatures that also need blood to survive.
Yes.
Kind of. But it's like, so they're one thing, and Fenric really is different. So why is Fenric involved with them even at all anyway?
Because Fenric is just ancient evil, and it's just how he's getting his kicks is playing this game. So like they are all the pawns. You know, that's the whole chess analogy that goes through that.
They hit you over the head with that at the end.
To what end? I don't know. Just because evil? I guess.
It's kind of weird because I'm trying to think. Like, he's in the dark dimension. He's trapped by chess. And then he is let out. He has these pawns that he sends out to undo his chess thing, but he's already freed before he plays the Doctor in chess. It's not like he's in the. It would make sense if he was in the dark dimension and then he figured out, okay, this is black and white work together. Now I've broken the spell, and then he's let out into a.
Well, I think that would have ultimately freed him. I think he found a body that he could be that would host him, but that wasn't his ultimate goal. I think he would have just been free had he killed the Doctor.
It's weird. He gets through the machine. I mean, because they don't realize either that the schematics or whatever the code, the thing is machine code. Like then they put that code into the supercomputer, and then the supercomputer became a vessel that could let him out of the dark dimension. Is that what happened?
Well, there's something to do with decoding the Viking.
The vase too. They decode the vase at one point. That's when he gets out.
Well, it was because of the vase that he was able to.
Right, that's when the guy gets
to have some influence and take over people's. But like the actual act of decoding the Viking writing was itself the thing that I don't know. So is that running the computer program? Is reading the Viking like translating it? That's running the computer program. That I mean, the analogy of like it's a logic thing.
I guess right.
So then using Ultima. Is that what it was called? The machine.
I think it was Ultima.
To decrypt it was in effect like running.
It was like maybe feeding the source code in, and then that's running it.
Sure.
Sure. Why? Random question. When you see the church, it says, "I need your hags." There's like a picture.
I saw that too.
Did you? What is that? What did that mean?
I forgot about that.
I wrote it down because I was like, "Why is this?" It's in the first episode.
Is it hags? It was hags. It wasn't bags, right?
I couldn't tell. I tried to zoom in. Like, I think it was, "I need your hags." Question. And I wrote the question mark. But like, what was that?
I don't.
And why is there always a professor character in all of these things? I think every episode of Doctor Who, there's some kind of scientist or professor. I'm just a random note. And one of my favorite parts ever, this is one of my favorite parts ever, is when I think it's a Soviet soldier finds like the leather pouch, and then he opens it up, and he gets the guy's headshot. It's like the actor's headshot. It's like this, 8x10 glossy picture, which was him like looking at his watch or like with his foot up, so looking off into the distance.
On the back of it had his special skills.
You get a lot of headshots. You also get like the here's a shot of your mom as a baby later on. She's got
we
like
need
this.
to get back to that.
They're like they're very large. Like they could have been smaller. Like they're literally as if someone's going to sign it.
Yeah. So there's definitely some weird plot things that happen that don't make any sense, and you're definitely helping me articulate what those things were, because it didn't feel like it kind of hung together entirely. I agree that excuse me, the beginning of it was probably tighter. There wasn't a whole lot as much going on, and it was still trying to figure out like, well, what is this story actually about? I really enjoyed all the supporting cast in this.
Yeah, everybody was great.
Jean and Phyllis, the two women that were evacuated out of London that had to live with the older woman.
Oh, my favorite part, speaking of those two, was when Ace says to them, "See you later," and they literally hold her to it. And they're like, because that's something you say. I see people to see you later. She's like, see you later. It's like, oh yeah, where?
When?
And then they just like point to a sign, and they're like, I guess we're gonna meet at Maiden's Point. It's like she just met these people. It's the weirdest thing.
Right.
She's like, oh, where are you from? Oh, you guys are. Oh, I'm from London too. Okay, see you later. Where? Oh yeah. Okay, where are we? When? Where? That was so bizarre.
Ace makes friends really easily.
Yeah,
People
she falls in love very
her.
quickly too.
Very quickly.
Like everything's very accelerated.
Ace is not a little girl.
No,
apparently.
Yeah.
No, she uses her wiles. That was also a very strange scene. Let's just jump all over the place. So Ace is going to distract one of the soldiers using her charms and batting her eyelashes at him. So she lures him out of where the other soldier was being held in the little jail, so the doctor can sneak in and pull him out. And she's leaning up against the wall of the building on the outside, and the soldier's there standing to her, and she's just talking in a David Lynch dreamscape. Like, nothing that she says makes any sense.
That part was great, though.
But, no, I liked it. I don't understand why the soldier...
It's like this really sexy dialect. She's like, I can feel the wind through my clothes. Which sounds like...
That was actually...
also like, oh, okay, this is like one of the best written lines I thought ever. And then, you're right, then she goes into this...
Right, that line was great.
Yeah, she re-feels that she's part of this initial Viking ship. And maybe she's related to the person she falls in love with later, but that's another thing. Because she's talking about the current, she could feel the water, and it's sort of like through her past. That's the way I took it. For some reason,
that was really turning the soldier on, and he wasn't like, okay, this woman's a little, I mean, she's hot and all, but
that was
he was
crazy.
totally into it. She was kind of bananas in that scene. But no, you're right. Leaning up against, it was a very Laura Flynn Boyle leaning up against the wall.
Yeah, she should have been taking a drag of a cigarette to it at the time.
Just a little Angela Badalamenti in the background would have been perfect.
It's a wind whipping up. I can feel it through my clothes. Is there a storm coming?
I wasn't expecting one.
The question is he making all the right moves? Or only going through the motions?
Yeah, so that was super freaking strange. How do you want to go through the rest of the story?
All right, well, stick with the first one, because like there's just so much stuff that goes on. So we have the doctor landing with Ace, and he says, "Oh, this is a British naval base," and she's like, "Well, it's World War II. There should be guys with guns all around."
Right.
Right. And I guess we find out later that he's inviting this invading force in because they have this master plan, which I thought was a great master plan.
Yeah.
But that's the end of it. Like, I thought, like, they talk about, then the master plan is there's a supercomputer, and they know the Russians are going to steal it, and they're going to put this poison gas inside, and the code... They're going to let them steal it so that they take it back to Moscow, and then they're going to just let things go for like a decade or whenever they feel
how long
like
it needs.
And the minute they turn, they're going to do a secret message with the word love in it.
Yes.
Because love is a battlefield. And then it's going to kill them all, right? So for me anyway, like playing it in your head, you're like, okay, well, there's a bunch of gas in this supercomputer. The supercomputer's gonna become a time bomb at the end, or no,
does not happen.
Nope, because there's another time. There's literally another room that's just
with
full
an actual
of these
time
canisters.
bomb. Yeah.
But yeah, so how did
I
we
will
get
say,
there? I don't remember
superficially, I love what Ace was wearing in this. She looked fantastic.
Well,
You never
I
see
had
her
to
in
know
it.
why was she dressed like that to be. She looked like she was dressed as was it a waitress or something in the beginning?
No, it's the
like
same thing she wore the entire way through.
No, and but the whole it starts, but she's sort of not in her regular Ace thing. She's dressed like she's in It's a Living, right?
It's a living.
But she's like, I guess she's dressed for the era, and I'm
She's dressed for the era.
But
Yeah.
we saw the episode before, although I think that the order was wrong.
Right,
But it was like, well,
correct.
why is she already dressed like? I was expecting her to have the jacket, like to come out like Ace, and she comes out dressed a certain way.
Well, I mean, that happens in other stories. It just hasn't happened with Ace. Many times, Sarah Jane would come out dressed for wherever they were. When they knew where they were going. I mean, they
guess
have
so.
a wardrobe
Right.
full of stuff. It's the first time, probably, that I've actually seen Ace dressed in period correct.
Yes. And later on, she
And it
does
looked
get her
great.
coat. I mean, the
Yes, she does.
coat comes back.
She's carrying her coat around like a badass. Okay, so they land there.
Yeah, and then
We
we're
have
seeing scenes too of Smoke and the
Russians.
who you're not sure if they're Russians. I think they,
Right.
if they're Nazis or they, we find out they are Russians coming over like the smoke, and it feels like D-Day, and you get that like lower shot of, the jaw shot of the should be two legs swimming in the water, and there's something
Yes.
underneath.
So we get that. I mean, what was interesting is like there's the foreboding from the beginning. You have that fog, and I think they say something about like where's the rest of the crew, and they disappeared, and so someone knows what's going on there. This is a place of evil, and there's all that foreboding, and they can feel it in the air and whatever. So
Right.
it was cool because I didn't quite have any idea actually what was going to be.
No, and it's super confusing
Coming in
too
this.
because you're in a German, you're in a British naval installation, and then you start
Yes.
seeing Nazi stuff. Like early
that was
on, you're
very
like,
strange.
"Oh, is this a Nazi group?" Like I wasn't sure. I'm like, "How many different things?" And then you assume the other group's Nazis, and they're not. And
Right.
and he's playing chess, and it's like, why are they always playing chess? Like all these Nazis guys are always playing chess. You never see checkers or Parcheesi, whatever that is, if that was a real game. But I was like, okay, not another Nazi thing. And it turns out it's not another Nazi thing.
No.
It's just a weird
guy trying to get
who's
into
got
Nazi
a
headspace.
Nazi fetish.
Yeah.
And then you get the Viking burial ground aspect. And then you get a church. Like, there's all
Right.
this stuff about the church and why is it like a fortress? There's no record of a battle here. And the doctor's like, well, the battle hasn't happened yet. That's like,
Right.
back off, doctor, with some of this weird stuff.
I liked also, I mean, from the beginning, we have one of the Russians, when they land on the beach, has had his throat slashed. So we don't know really where that's coming from. And he's all pale. We don't know that the blood's been drained out of him, but yeah, that throat slash, which looked really awesome, actually. That was great
Yeah, that
makeup
was
because
cool.
you could still see him breathing, and it kind of, it just looked real gross. It was
And the
awesome.
music this whole time is very cool, too.
I did like it.
It almost feels a little bit like if you saw the It reboot movie that came out. Like some of the music actually reminded me of the soundtrack to that. It just gave the whole thing a really good, cool feel.
Yeah. So you get the point of view shots, I guess, of some of the hemovores coming up out of the water and chasing one of the soldiers, who immediately drops his gun and flees down the beach with his hands like flailing. It's like, okay,
right. And then so the doctor's trying to figure it out. And we already talked about how she meets these two with their old crone
before that
housemaid or whatever. This is happening in the first episode, right? This is
That does, yes.
First episode, and we find Maiden's Point. And then they go back home with her, and the woman's like, "You can't go to Maiden's Point. You know
that's
why
where
it's
sluts
called
go."
Maiden's Point?" And they're like, "No, why?" And then she says, "Because you can hear girls with evil in their hearts there." And I wanted to be like, I still don't understand why it's called Maiden's Point. Like, I was expecting something more to it than that. I was like, all right, I guess.
Right.
That's
where the sluts go. That's all. We have what?
What do we have? Code breakers, Dan?
Oh, so the what did you think? This is just a thing,
Ace's
I guess they
fear
do all
of
the time.
swimming?
We can come back to
Oh,
that.
okay.
Just that Ace, whenever they first land, this is backing away further. Ace, when they first land there, she says, this can't be an installation. There's no soldiers with guns around.
Yes.
And then like a second later, they're surrounded by half a dozen soldiers with guns pointing at them. And the doctor just talks his way past them without any sort of There's no trickery. There's, in modern Who, they rely way too heavily, or did for a while, rely way too heavily on like the psychic paper to get them out of situations like that. And this is one of several times that we've seen the Seventh Doctor specifically just use the sheer force of his will to talk his way past people.
Yeah, well, I think I had that same note, and I loved that this did this. But it wasn't just his talking. Like, he gets letterhead, right? And he
later. But I'm just saying, even he's surrounded by soldiers with guns pointing at their heads, and he's just able to brush them off and say which way is to Commander Millington.
Right.
Like,
but to your point about the psychic paper, like later he finds letterhead and signs it, and in every other modern Who story or wherever, he would just hold out the psychic paper and say, "I'm here," because he actually uses the environment to create, to get out of these things.
Which I think was very funny that he did that there. Not only because he uses his opposite hand to sign Winston Churchill's name, and he's able to do that perfectly, but he does it in front of Dr. Judson and his assistant, and just kind of gives them a wink about it,
like,
which I think is
cool.
really fun. Like, I enjoyed that moment a lot, because it's just like, okay, this guy can just do whatever he wants. People are just bowled over by him. It was. On one hand, I kind of like the MacGuffin they can give you. Like, okay, this is just a thing. He has a psychic paper and get past these things. That's fine. Let's move the story along. Versus, okay, this is just the kind of guy that he is, and people are just so taken with his force of will and personality that they're just going to follow along with him. So I kind of appreciate both of those. I lean towards this version because it's less heavily relied on, like I said, than the psychic paper was. So we go in there. Dr. Judson is a horrible...
he's a horrible person.
Well, he's a horror, especially to his, I guess, assistant / nurse.
He hates... I don't know what's going on. They have a special
he hates all
bond.
women. He's such a misogynist. He hates Ace and tells her basically to shut up. Actually, I think he may actually
He does. I think,
shut up.
He's like, you don't know anything, and then she'll figure out whatever the thing is.
Figures out the thing, and then he has like huge respect for her because she's actually a woman with a brain. So they talk through the logic puzzle thing, like you said, that comes up later.
One other scene though that I really liked. Nothing really to do with the plot at all, but I just liked the way it was written and the way it was directed. Was the baby scene? Mm-hmm. Like, there's just this little moment where Ace wants to see the baby. Mm-hmm. And she goes to grab the baby, and she holds the baby wrong. And then her grandmother's like, "Oh no, you gotta, hold the head here." And it just felt so real, and it just felt like a nice, like a little touch like that, like, because Ace wouldn't necessarily know. It just felt like a real scene with real people that you would have seen in a lot of this. People always talk about like this Doctor being the bridge between classic Who and new Who.
Yeah,
and it never felt more like that than these 4 episodes, or 3 episodes. Was it 3? It was 4 episodes.
Yeah, well, coming up to the last one as well.
Like, this could easily have been in any modern Who, this story, and a lot of the, with some small changes here and there, but like those sort of moments and the way that the cast was, and even the way that her grandmother, just all of her lines and the way she delivered them, that was just felt very genuine and good. And the baby's name is Audrey, so there you go.
I appreciated that actress. Oh, that moment too. And what's the baby's name? Audrey. I hate that name. And practically throws the baby back at her mother.
And I feel like that was telling. I mean, I don't know about you, but it was like, oh, that's clearly her, like her mother. It wasn't much of a surprise, right?
No.
I also never realized Norway and Northway were probably. I was like, oh, okay. It's like, the Northway, it's a Norway or whatever. So
right.
Like, fantastic.
Right. So Ace doesn't want to swim / can't swim. It wasn't clear at the beginning. I guess she can swim.
Speaking of not being clear, though, I'm going to throw something else at you, Dan.
Do it.
The school photo. There was some where they see.
Yes, in the Nazi office.
Was that the crippled guy and Milligan to show that they had a relationship before? But it was just weird. I was like, okay, there's going to be maybe more to this. But not really. It's just that they have a past relationship.
That they have a past, and that somehow Millington, I guess, is responsible for Dr. Judson's injury.
They hint at that.
But we don't say it.
They don't say it, and they never get there. And I thought...
Which is fine.
Remember, like, later on, I think it's the 3rd chapter or the 4th one, where he seals... He gets the China or whatever... freaking gravy boat or whatever he's after. And then he's like, seal the doors, and like, no, there's 2 guys coming after us. And he's like, nah, I got what I want. And then he tells the story about how they were on a ship and it got hit, and they seal the doors and you hear the guy screaming to death. I was like, oh, is that story how he... Nope. Just another story of someone else dying. But yeah, you never find out what happened to them. Like, what went wrong. Yeah. But it's enough that you get...
leave it.
Yeah, you get that he owes him something.
Right. So, what else? What'd you think of the Vicar? I really liked his...
He was great. He was great.
The Crisis of Faith stuff was really interesting.
Yes. I wish there was a little bit more of that. I mean, there's enough of it, but I felt like he was totally human and really heavy stuff too. When you think about, he's all the guilt that he feels is not he's not afraid of the enemy. He's afraid of himself and his own country and the stuff that they've done and like all that's that guilt and that's eroded his faith, and that was great. I just wish that he had more of just getting killed by a bunch of vampire zombies, and then that was it. And because I thought that whole idea was so interesting, and him finding faith and losing faith, and it was like just one
within
part
moments.
Of this soup.
Yeah. Okay. So what do we have? We have starting with episode 2. There's a voiceover of Judson saying that he knows what the Curse of Fenric seeks, the treasure from the Silk Lands, etc. And then you see the new runes are being burned into the wall. Which just seemed, I didn't know what was going on there. Like so is the computer program still being written? Like I don't quite know what was happening there. I thought that maybe he was actually translating it and that was causing it to appear, but that's not really what was happening. I don't quite understand. He said that I've heard the magic words that will release great powers. I shall bury the treasures forever. Tonight I shall die, and the words die with me. So now, I don't know if he was him saying that or if he was reading that, but at the same time, you see the new runes are being written.
And it felt very much like Evil Dead, when he's reading from the Necronomicon, and then all this stuff is happening. It's as if the spell's getting... And I think that makes sense. Like, if all these things are a computer program designed to be fed into the machine to unlock the Shadow Realm... or wherever. All that makes sense. And then it's like, oh, okay, that's why he had all these pawns out there. Just a huge scheme to get all these pieces back.
Right.
And they should have had it where Ace wanted to go there for a reason, and it would have fed it even more, but whatever.
That would have been very good, yeah.
But the order that things happen, I don't know if it necessarily lines up perfectly with that.
The order of the overall...
Yeah, like at the point that he gets out versus when they're reading that versus when they think it's right. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's totally unclear, but it's words of power or something like that. I don't know. So
why do they have Lee press-on nails? And
they have to hold them out the entire time.
Well, because they're drying, because it'll fall right off.
That glue, it's not very strong.
But it's just so weird. It's just such a weird thing to have vampires that are also underwater
creatures from the Black Lagoon, vampires, zombies, all kind of rolled into one.
Yeah.
Because they had very much like Night of the Living Dead going on. When they're like, the zombies are outside trying to get their, I guess, whatever.
That Kids in the Hall sketch. Where he just keeps throwing their shoes. You remember that? It's like a zombie Kids in the Hall sketch, but the zombies are going very slow. And they're just like da 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 da, and they keep stopping and then taking their shoe off and dropping it. It's I'll put it. I'll post it.
No, I don't remember, but I want
notes.
you to describe the entire sketch for me.
But yeah, so zombies
breaking into the church
on nails.
Yeah. I think the makeup for the most part looked really good.
Yes.
There's one, the first time you actually see a hand and it's underwater and it's kind of caressing the bow of the ship or whatever that you see, you can really see the side seam on the glove. That was the only part where it's like, oh, that's, anytime it was underwater.
Yeah, and once you got like the final creature too, there was some work that maybe had to be done. But
the design of it,
yes, and how they worked within that limitation, like the Jaws part where you don't see the creature, but you see what the creature sees, and like all that stuff was great. And I thought the two girls that you mentioned, once they become vampires, are amazing. Like the scene in the second chapter
Yep.
or episode when they're in the water and they're like deep down everyone wants to come into the water, which is like an amazing line too, just anyway about, you know, humanity. And there's so many good scenes like that. It's just that, you know, whether or not does it all work together.
You're right.
Maybe not.
I think it mostly worked until you started kind of picking it apart and thinking about the pieces, but overall it had a good effect.
Yeah, I think that's close to the end of, right? That's sort of where the second chapter ends, right? So we don't get, do we get Fenric as a human until chapter 3? Is it like halfway through that he becomes flesh?
That's a good question.
I feel like that's sort of
that's right.
Like, and that's sort of where it goes a little bit off the rails for me.
Well, it really went off the rails for me when the whole use of faith as this psychic barrier.
Yeah,
thing,
and I think that's like all chapter 3, because that's when the priest dies.
Right.
I keep saying chapter, but episode 3, that's where the priest dies. That's where a lot of death happens. That's when her grandmother gets that letter. That was a good scene too, where
that was nice.
He dies. And then before that, there's that weird scene where she's like, "Oh, is he your boyfriend?" And she's like, "No, you know, whatever." And then she's like, "I never thought I would get married until now." And it's like, you're like, "Who are you talking about?" It's like, "Oh, that's that one guy who gave you his scarf."
Yeah,
I guess they're gonna get
Which
married.
Really felt like it had no motivation to it.
No, and
at
it goes
all.
nowhere because he ends up being the bad guy who gets killed anyway, and she doesn't really have any emotion about it. She's literally going to marry him, and then at the end, the doctor says, "You're garbage. I've always known you were garbage." It breaks her faith in the character. Then he's like, "Nah, it's cool." She goes, "I'm going to go swimming," and then she goes swimming. She's like, "Conquered my fear. Let's go." And then it's like a freeze frame 80s ending. Like it's like there's no emotion to losing.
Some of it just didn't feel earned at all. It just kind of happened.
That whole, I wish they cut the whole her in love thing, because it wasn't necessary.
No.
Right?
No.
Like, it doesn't. What was the point of it?
You just described it. Yeah, it doesn't go anywhere. It didn't.
It's not like her love of the guy protected her. It was her belief in the doc. Like, it was like, why is that element in here?
So the whole thing about faith creating a psychic shield that would cause the hemovores to then recoil in pain and double over with their heads. There's one scene when someone's doing that. I forget who it was. Maybe it was the vicar was doing it, and all of them are still following him step by step through the graveyard, shrieking in pain as he's doing it. It's like, all right, you just stop. If you stop and go away from him, you'll be fine. But I read this because you can't really hear it in the audio mix that we have. But the doctor's the first one to do this with the faith, and you hear the kind of tone in the background, this kind of musical thing happening, and he's muttering something under his breath, and that's him, enacting his faith. He's actually saying the names of his companions.
Well, that's cool. So it's all
really awesome.
Yeah, that was. I don't know why that wasn't more obvious, unless I just wasn't.
No. I had to read about it. I didn't hear it at all in the mix, and I didn't see that. I didn't have the subtitles on at the time, so I didn't see that. But I just happened to read it later, and apparently you can hear a couple of the names, which is kind of cool. But the fact that the doctor's source of great faith, his belief, is in his companions.
That's cool.
Is a moment that should have been, like you said, like really called out a little bit more, because that's super meaningful. The fact that they're using faith as their shield / weapon against them is really kind of...
That's a little weird. I mean, I guess that's like... It makes sense in this way, right? So that the whole vampire myth they bring up, like the priest says in Dracula, this is actually where something happens, right? And I haven't read Dracula, so I'm assuming that he's telling the truth.
Sure, let's agree.
So in feeding into the vampire myth, the fact that you can use a crucifix against a vampire is why it works. So, and the doctor's like, "Oh no, it's not religion. Religion's terrible, kids. It's the belief in the thing." So that's what.
It's not the crucifix; it's the person's belief.
So thinking, So I sort of get that, and that's why they're reacting the way they are. Why are they underwater creatures and don't look more like traditional vampires, like we've already had in Doctor Who? Like we've had. Was it Stone
Vampire
of Blood?
Planet.
Was that the one with the vampire? I can't remember which one we did.
Vampire Planet, I think.
With Tom Baker, but
yeah.
So we've had things that they're not vampire-like at all, other than faith.
They need blood. Well, and they drink blood.
They sort of.
No, they're slashing people's
I mean, they
throats and then
do,
drained
but
of blood.
do they?
Right.
All right,
I see
hold
what
on.
you
Wait,
mean, yes.
I want to say this before I forget it because maybe you understand it. This is also
Probably
where I
not.
felt a little lost.
Okay.
Fenric is made flesh, right?
Okay.
Yep.
Well, for now, he's taken over someone's body.
He's taken over someone's
Okay.
body, whatever.
Yes.
He's got the eyes, so he is
Yes.
Fenric. Like the other guy's sort of gone.
Yes.
Although he has some of his memories because he attacks his handler at one point and says, "You treated me like a baby." And then he does this great look into the camera, which I'm assuming you're going to make a GIF, and he just looks like a freaking lunatic. But
yes, that was actually great.
before that, he goes outside and he runs into his army of vampires.
Uh-huh.
And he says, "I was only expecting one of you." Wow.
Yes.
What was that? What did that mean?
I think the only one he cared about was the Ancient One.
And he's not even there yet, though.
Not
like
yet.
This,
right. So I don't know why he didn't. Yes, I think that's the only
Was
one.
he not
actually cared
aware
about.
that they made more people somehow? I'm not even
right.
really sure how they make more people. To be
I'm not
honest
sure how
with
they
you.
made more people. They did, and the Ancient One's the one that matters, and he's the controller of all of them because he's able to like psychically cause them all to melt.
Right.
At one point, so
Yeah.
I guess he was just expecting.
The line was weird.
him.
I was
It
like,
strange.
Okay, I don't know. Whatever. It's fine.
Right. It was an unnecessary line.
Yeah. And then they start destroying. At that point, I think they start destroying chessboards, right? Or maybe that happened already.
It may have already happened.
I don't know. Maybe did Fenric tell Mulligan off screen to do it, and we just didn't know? I can't remember if
at that point he had any control over anyone, so I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't remember if Fenric took over the guy's body and then they destroyed the chessboards, or if they destroyed the chessboards before.
Destroying chessboards was much earlier.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the
just
because
it came out of the blue. It was very strange.
Yeah. Why we already talked about why doesn't the green gas destroy Ace?
Right.
They're huffing it in. You know, she's like blowing rings out, and then she's like, if this was me, I'd put a bomb under here, and then they do the
The look on it. Yeah. It was a cute moment.
Yeah, it was great. And one of the dead soldiers was still breathing, so the guy gets his first big moment. There's like they throw a gas canister and it kills like 2 soldiers in like a thing, and then they show us thing, and then Johnny's just his belly's going up and down. Like it's all right.
He was slowly dying. That's all.
Fine. Great Serpent. Then I have This Is Commie Propaganda. I have written down because there was definitely a lot of soldiers, Workers Unite or whatever.
Workers Unite. So
Yeah.
I don't understand. Also, this doesn't really matter, but I'm going to say it anyway. So the winning move in the chess puzzle was that the black and white pawns were supposed to work
It
together.
doesn't work in chess. You try
That's not how
that.
that works?
Yeah, you try that in a tournament, and
so the black and white pawns are supposed to work together. So Fenric or whatever, the possessing Fenric, moves a piece and was like, "Gotcha."
Yeah, it doesn't.
Which
make
makes no
sense. The only way it makes sense is, let's say he can't move a pawn to checkmate the king because the other colored pawn would, protect that square.
But
and
he
because
made one
now
move,
they're on
not
the
2
same
moves.
What?
He made one move though. It wasn't as though like
No, but what I'm saying is, like, let's say if you and I were playing chess, and
Let's say that.
I could checkmate you with my pawn, and
Right.
and you wouldn't be able to go anywhere. You were in check.
Yeah.
Except you had a pawn that was protecting that square. So if I moved my
Right.
pawn to that square, I could say check, and then you would take my pawn with your pawn.
Right.
But once both pawns become on the same team,
you can get out
when
of the way
I
and make
move
it
my
happen.
pawn, I would say checkmate because the other pawn's on my side.
But what I'm saying is, in order for that to happen, you're only controlling one color. You're not controlling both colors. You only have one
in this
move.
game,
as Fenric, you only have one move, and he makes one move. He doesn't move one pawn out of the way so the other one can come in.
No, but he wouldn't have to move it out of the way. He would only still have to move one pawn. He just now goes from owning all of the white pawns to all of the white and all of the black pawns.
That doesn't. No, that's not how
Yes,
chess works.
But it doesn't. No, it does not how chess works.
So it doesn't make any
is
sense.
not how
the
chess
other
works.
thing.
Yeah.
The other thing I just want to say is, so Fenric's been plotting this whole thing. Assume he's set all of this in motion. He's been trapped in the Shadow Realms since the 3rd century.
Yeah, and he's doing well.
He's had hundreds of years to think about this. I would think he'd probably think through every permutation of the chessboard to figure out what the...
Well, I would say in his defense, if you're trying to think about how to play chess, one of the things you shouldn't think about is, well, what if I just controlled both pieces? Like, that doesn't make... It's insane It's insane. Like, you would
Yeah.
think the solution to this ultimate thing is like no one can win. Right? And then all of a sudden it's a Zen moment. But it's not even that. It's basically cheating. Right? It's like saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, you don't control." Like it was a weird part of a weird kind of a weird episode. Like they didn't think that one out. Maybe it was like chess would be cool, but he doesn't really know how to play chess.
No, right. So it's just gonna be this one move. It was definitely the whole premise of war games. The only winning move is not to play.
Right.
Like that's where we're getting at.
That's sort of what they wanted to do. The one thing I did like was Fenric trying desperately to figure out this thing, because they stick him in a back room and they're like, yeah, just figure this out. And then Ace comes in and he's like sweating and his eyes are all messed up and he's like, I just want to, do you know? And it's like, that's how I feel a lot of times when I'm working too late and you're just like, just tell me the answer. I don't want to do this anymore. And then she leaves.
Just blurts it out,
It's weird. The doctor sets him up, right? And so it's Fenric and the doctor and he's like, I got my chessboard out. Yo, check this out. Figure this out. And then the next scene is the doctor in the hallway talking to the
he's good. I'm just gonna leave him with his chessboard.
Yeah, like
He's
they don't
good.
even show him
Don't worry
leave.
about
It's just
it.
like I guess he
It's
just
okay.
lets him. It doesn't make any sense. He's
They don't
already
keep him
out
busy.
of the dimension. Like I don't know. It's all fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. It all makes
And then
sense.
he convinces the creature from the Black Lagoon, Great Serpentor. He's like, yo, this guy, he's
been playing you.
He's trying to make you poison the Earth because you're going to own the Earth in the future.
Yep. So he was supposed to be the
that's a
ultimate
thing that maybe
evolution
we
of.
should think about. Where are all the humans? Is it like a
That was the
genocide?
evolution of humans.
So they
into
were
this thing.
humans?
What?
So humans become vampires?
Humans become these hemivores, and this ancient one.
Okay.
That's what he says in the distant future. This is the what humans become because of this toxic slime. Blah blah blah.
Right, which
this was
he
the whole
causes.
thing Fenric was setting.
So by not causing it, he undoes himself.
Yes.
So he should just disappear.
Yes. That's what happens, though. Yes.
But he
prevented that from happening.
they do the same thing Dan and I are going to do when this stupid podcast is over, which is the double suicide, where he just takes him in the back room and you just see the glass and then he just explodes the canisters and they both die. Weird ending, right? Like,
yeah.
It's like he was like, okay, kill the doctor, and then all of a sudden it's like the Darth Vader lifting up the Emperor and tossing him, and he just double suicides himself.
That's exactly
right in
what
that
happens.
back room.
Yeah. So
he should cease to exist, and all of the vampires should cease to exist.
Well, they already murdered them all with his mind. He mind murdered them.
He did mind murder them.
So we don't know. Maybe he did actually disappear, but he stopped that timeline from happening. And
Well, war is a game played by politicians, Dan.
Let's talk about Fenric's whole thing setting up Ace and like the story being woven through at least one other story through Silver Nemesis.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the ice world.
No, that's Dragonfire.
Okay, but that's the first.
So
Ace
Dragonfire's
story.
where it starts. Yes. That's how. That's
because
where
they say
the
ice world. So yes. So we should start there.
I guess. Yeah. So Ace gets swept up in a time storm, and that's how she lands on the freighter, whatever, in Dragonfire.
Yes. And I need to clarify something with you.
Do it.
I thought when they first revealed it that Ace was a wolf of Fenric. It's in her blood.
Yes.
That she made the time storm that took her away. Right? That she's almost like she should be at Professor X's house, and she creates this vortex in her bedroom because she hates her parents, and she goes away. But then later, I think it's sort of implied that Fenric did the time.
I think it's kind of both. That she's a wolf of Fenric, and that he set that in motion for her to be able to do.
How does he set that in motion if he's trapped in the dark dimension or the whatever it's called?
Shadow worlds.
Like, it makes more sense to me if she did it. Like, she's got this power set that's
maybe
like dormant.
Because I don't think it's made clear. Or maybe because of this curse of Fenric that she has those powers. But so that's the time storm that gets her there. And then Silver Nemesis with the Silver Angel robot lady. They make references to, there's the chessboard that was in Lady Marmalade's house. What was her name?
I can't remember Silver Nemesis at all.
Oh, Eric.
It was an anniversary, right?
Yes.
And what happened?
You got that part right.
Oh, this was the one with the time traveling.
Yes.
Which the woman and the guy and
exactly.
And that had something to do with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was a time storm in that one.
Right, and then
that's how they
here.
came forward. But when the Doctor goes back in time to the 1600s and he's in Lady Periwinkle's house, whatever her name is, Jesus, he sees the chessboard there, and several times they go back and forth. He comes past the chessboard, and the pieces have moved, and he's moving them again. This is the chess game that
he's playing.
It is a reference to that, and it's seemingly Fenric is moving these pieces and sending him a message or something. That's why the Doctor says at the end. Cool. I knew that Ace was a total garbage person. She's a total loser.
Yeah.
Why would I pick her up otherwise? I knew from the beginning. Back when we saw Lady.
Yeah, he says Ice World
house,
Time Storm, blah 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 blah.
Lady Pennyfort.
Teddy Pendergrass.
Teddy Pendergrass. Right. So it's not on the level of something in New Doctor Who where you carry Bad Wolf carries through. If you look through the entire season, you can see all the hints to it. It's not that. It's not the crack in the wall. But it is an overarching thing that does get woven through several stories.
I'm not quite sure I understand his ultimate plan though. So he is trapped by chess. So many of us are. Mm-hmm. And he's in the dark world, right? And then he concocts this Fenric thing, right? He is Fenric. So
Fenric is just a name for evil. Yeah.
He creates his wolves.
Yes. They're cursed because they've carried his trapped soul inside this Oriental vase.
Wait, is he trapped in a vase, or is he in the dark world, or where is the dark world in the vase?
I think the dark world's in the vase.
The Doctor have been more careful with it too. I don't know, it feels a little strange. All right, so it's trapped in the writing. So he somehow gets the writing of the computer code, but then he puts. And how is? They're Vikings, right? So we're starting off on the fact that they are Vikings.
We are going to have to a beautiful mind to this.
Yes. So the Viking. Okay, let's say a group of Vikings who hopefully are not all related, because otherwise there's some stuff going on.
Real problems.
With her wanting to marry her own relative. So these Vikings go to the quote unquote Orient, right? I think they just say the Orient. They steal some treasure.
Yeah.
Which the treasure has code on it from Fenric.
Okay.
Right?
Including that vase. Yeah.
Right? So
canteen or whatever.
They get it, and then they are pursued at that point by vampires, who I thought you said were only created from the gas that they do.
I don't know.
I
didn't say that because I don't know how they were actually created. They're just part of the
But it's the merman people, right?
Yeah. They're the hemivores.
But you said that's the further evolution of humans.
Yes. Well, the ancient one is. Because he got brought back. He got brought back from the future via a time storm.
Okay. So then let's all the way back. So we're in the. This is like we're literally going to have the wall up now. So we're back in the dark dimension.
Give me some more red string. Okay.
Then the first step that he does is he opens up a time storm.
Yes.
And he pulls out this
the ancient
creature from
one.
the Black Lagoon. And he's like, what? He's like, what? And he puts him in the ocean. And he says, you wait until somebody steals his pottery. Preferably white people. We're already here. There could be, if this is in China, why can't the Chinese people take it? Doesn't matter.
Nope.
Racist.
Has to be Viking.
So it's got to be white people. Nazi imagery. I mean, at this point, I don't know what's going on with the writers from Doctor Who. And so the Vikings come and they steal the pottery, and then the Dracula underwater vampires are pursuing them, killing them one by one.
Yep.
They land in Maiden's Point. Their offspring are then haunted by these. The underwater vampires are just hanging out now in England. Generations go by.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Up until the World War II, when the code breakers discover their writing, which contains the code that he was put on the original pottery.
Yep.
And then he knows that they will have a World War II and they will have a supercomputer because they will then feed that code into the computer, which will then break down the walls of shadow.
I don't know that he knew that there was going to be a computer or a war, but he knew
it was computer code. It's right.
Well, it's just a logic thing. I think just reading it was enough to run the program.
She literally says machine code or computer code. She says that.
It says it's a logic.
But she says, watch it again. She says,
no, I know she says that, but I think that's just her saying like this is what it's analogous to. I think just by reading it is in effect running the quote unquote program, and that the machine is just doing it faster. That's all.
But why didn't the Vikings originally read it on their boat, and then it would have all happened then? Why does it have to happen centuries later?
This guy's got plans within plans within plans.
All right, so he's third stage guild navigator. Yes. So he's got that. Like, as then he knows that the relatives of these Vikings will keep coming back because he needs them. Why? Don't know.
They're
bound to it. They've become the wolves. Maybe when they first saw the pottery, it controlled them. Right?
Yep.
It makes more sense if he's a space person named Fenric who needs his supercomputer to do this, because it is machine code, and he's got to wait centuries until humanity has a computer good enough to do it, because this Ultima is the ultimate machine. It's an amazing machine. So he did this on purpose, and he had to get it to England because at that point in human history, there is a machine capable of running the code, Dan.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I buy this. Every second of this, I'm with it.
You find the pottery, it takes you over, then you sail back into Maiden's Point, and the girls in the sand, the boys and babies are made, Dan, and the babies are evil. And that, I think, and then once the code is run, he's freed, but he's still got to play chess again.
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it. That's it. But pretty straightforward when you say it like that.
Ace, so he also knows Ace is his pawn.
Yes.
But what's her role? Just to get the doctor there so that the doctor, he can kill the doctor, he can laugh at the doctor, he can make the doctor kneel before him.
Evil plan, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. So all of that. So he planted her supposedly in Ice World.
Yes.
Knowing the doctor would pick her up.
Somehow knew it. Yeah. Yep.
That all makes sense. And she hates water, and we got to find out why she hates water.
Wait, why does she hate water?
Because she was a descendant of these Vikings who spent so much time on a boat watching these vampires come up and take them in the fog.
Why does she hate her mom?
I don't know why she hates her mom so much. She sort of said it in the earlier ones, right? Like they wouldn't take her to the mall or something.
Yeah, they didn't take her to the mall.
Well, they say she's evil, so she just may be just a bad kid.
Yeah, all right.
The doctor's a jerk, though. I think we also get, like, she confronts the doctor a couple times. I don't know what you thought of that, where she's like, you always know everything, but you don't tell me anything.
Right.
And then he's like, what do you want to know? I was around in the beginning of time, and there was good, and there was evil, and there was chaos, and a baby, or, it's like, whatever. All right, what do you think? What do you think of now that we're done? Are we done? I feel exhausted from that.
I think we kind of got everything out of it that we could, but there's so much that whatever.
It's one of those ones that you get at the end of a review like this, and you're like, why have I made these choices? Like, I lay them all out. Why have I ended up? It's almost like my own Fenric plan.
You're stuck playing chess.
Speaking of Wolves of Fenric, I had seen that was the original title, or one of the original titles. I think that's a superior title. I wish they had called it the Wolves of Fenric.
I think
sounds a lot cooler.
J&T said that the wolf part doesn't come until too late in the story for that to really be a good title.
Who would want this story to be confusing, right? He was like, I'm drawing the line there.
There's not even
people to be
wolf
confused about the underwater vampires that look like a creature from the Black Lagoon. Now, I also saw that there is a DVD version of this that is all one story and has extra effects and stuff.
And scene, extra.
Do you have? I didn't do any research. Do you have any idea what that extra stuff is? Does it fill in all the parts that we were like confused
Let's just say
about?
yes. It makes everything come together perfectly. I doubt it. Otherwise, they would have left that stuff in. I'm pretty sure that didn't happen.
Exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got anything else to say on this? Are we?
No. We're done.
What do people think of this? Is this considered? I would say this is probably going to be considered good because it is good. I think it's. I said a lot of negative things about it just where I'm confused, but I think it's one of my favorite Doctor Who stories.
Yeah, I think you still overall liked it. I didn't completely.
Yeah, I really liked it.
All right.
Wait, you said you were poisoned to it?
I didn't poison you to it.
Oh, okay.
With my confusion.
You're sort of a middle of the road kind of.
People love this story.
No, I mean you. I'm saying you were sort of you didn't hate it, but
I still liked the story.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand how some of these pieces that we've enumerated to death here, how they kind of hung together. So it didn't feel like a very cohesive story to me because the plot just doesn't. It just has a whole bunch of holes in it. But I liked everything about it.
It did until my brain exploded before, and I feel like, okay, now I...
Do you feel better now? You got it all out?
I feel like that's... It is a computer program.
Sure. Of course it is. I still don't buy it. I don't see how that... But it's fine. It's fine.
Everything's fine.
Thank you, everyone on the Twitters, for replying to us about what you thought about this story.
And what do the people think?
J.W. Bird said about this story, just a joy. It's how Doctor Who should always be. Great acting, atmospheric locations, historical setting, rubber monsters coming out of the sea. Literally the template for anyone making the show. And it does feel, like you said, Eric, kind of like more modern Who. This is a very good bridge. And if they had just changed a couple of things, it really could have just fit into the modern era. So thank you for that. Chris Stubbs Paddock says, great story, great acting, continues the upward trend, especially with the monster story being underpinned with Ace's emotional arc continuing. We get a callback to Silver Nemesis, real mythos building that was never explored. I think they started building some mythos, and they attempted it, but it felt kind of thin to me. And maybe you're right. Maybe if exploring it more would have made that much more meaningful. But it is a nice attempt at trying to make that a bigger deal. Agree with both of you too about the acting and the setting. I think we both enjoyed all of that.
The acting on this was amazing. Everybody was good.
Good job, everybody.
They were all good job.
Rolled Enough in Time.
Speaking of acting, hold on.
Oh.
Take a pause. Who was the guy? Anybody that he just seems so familiar? The Mulligan.
Alfred Lynch played Commander Millington. Let's see. Let's see what we know about.
No, it's fine. You can keep going. I don't want to derail this thing anymore.
Too late. It's already derailed. Derailed. I'm in the wrong story anyway now, so I can't find it. Okay, great. So
and that man was Chester Stevens. No, I don't know who that is.
Spinston.
Rolled Enough in Time. Fisher Stevens. I didn't, and now the joke's ruined. No, it wasn't even a good joke. And
not really.
Nope.
I'm gonna say this one time. It's gonna happen.
Why was Fisher Stevens? Why did he literally dress up like an Indian person for those Short Circuit movies? And everyone wasn't like, yeah, come on, that's not cool. Like
I totally forgot about that.
It was
right.
like they just left, and your parents took you to see it.
It was the '80s. Fisher Stevens could totally play a fucking racist role. It didn't have to be Indian, and with a horrible, offensive accent.
So keep going.
It's great.
So what do you got?
World Enough in Time podcast says, breathlessly action-packed and staggering in its ambition. Suddenly, Doctor Who I always wanted was being made, and yet it is very nearly the end. Needed one or two more exposition scenes to explain the complex plot, but bloody brilliant. And I do think it was in need of some explanation, but overall, we liked it. David says, you know what they were thinking. What Doctor Who needs is more plot, lots of plot. But he does say, I like this one. Things are getting back on track. Can I interest you in a game of chess? I'm not going to fall for that trap.
Yeah, when you mentioned War Games, that's well before this, right? This is 89, so War Games is probably 84 or something.
Yeah, 83, 84, something like that. We could probably find out, but let's not.
Doesn't matter. We don't need to.
Bernard says about the story, it was overrated, but very good in parts. I would definitely say this is very good in parts as well. Nitro9 says, my favorite episode ever! Exclamation point!
Good job.
I love the Dr. Ace dynamic in this one. He's manipulating everything. She's undermining it all because she's smart and figuring it out and doesn't know his big picture.
Yeah, he gives her nothing and she figures everything out. Much to the detriment of the universe because she literally hands the solution to Fenric thinking that it's her bow.
The Doctor had to break her confidence in him in order to hopefully the monster was going to kill the right person. And that bit in the end where he has to make her lose her faith, powerful. Some trivia, Nitro9 goes on to note, when the Humivores are attacking the church and the Doctor says they need to have faith, he drives the monsters away by muttering the names of his former companions.
Oh,
See, there you go.
I thought you were going to say something about George Michael. Like if they had just panned over and he had the acoustic guitar and his foot tapping on the wall. That would have been a missed opportunity, Doctor Who.
We'll make a supercut fan version of that. Simon G says, can't remember much about this one except the bit where the vicar who's lost his faith gets attacked. May rewatch after a review. Go for it. Rewatch it. Tell us what you think when you do.
For some reason, when you were reading that, I was like, I don't remember much about this because I'm addicted to pills. I thought that was the next thing, and I heard that in my head, and I was like, that was a strange thing for someone to write.
Why would he say that on Twitter?
He did not write that in.
He did not say that. No. This is from a user who goes by the name Farshnuke, or I am Alex, not the Farshnuke, just his writer.
I don't know what's happening right now.
My favorite televised
this
Doctor Who
ends
story.
with one of us in a bathtub of ice. It's like no kidneys are just gone.
Kidneys. My favorite televised Doctor Who story possibly ever, though I'll go by the director's cut on the DVD. Please, I am Alex, tell us, does it make more sense?
So we watched it on BritBox, so we saw the TV broadcast, or did we, because the effects didn't look...
The effects were not added and in previous cases, we did not get the extra scenes, so I'm assuming
so let us know,
televised versions.
Anybody that's seen both, I would like to know what we missed.
Tell us it was a lot better, it made more sense. Or even better, sorry. Decorative Vegetable says, made me realize just how cunning the Seventh Doctor really was, and I mean that with all its negative connotations. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a little sinister in some ways.
Just in the fact that he didn't let Ace in on the plan.
Yeah.
When she could have helped, because he has all this faith in all of his companions. Why not show a little bit of faith towards Ace? Is what I'm saying. So thank you all for responding like that. That was very helpful. You can write to us on the Twitters at TODW Show and let us know what you think of our review, because we're obviously missing chunks of this. We both liked it, but some of you loved it, and maybe you've seen it more times than we have, which would be one each. So you can fill us in on the parts that we're just not quite gelling.
But just sticking with that a little bit about the Doctor being a little evil or sinister or whatever.
Okay, we're still reviewing.
Do you think that he is? Because they're
sinister.
Let me back up a little bit.
Cunning.
Like, as far as this whole chess thing, Ace figures it out on her own. She figures out the solution and she gives the solution. Was he unaware that was going to happen, or was he sort of long gaming this whole thing and knew all of that?
No, I don't think, based on his reaction, although he is pretty duplicitous sometimes, I don't think he expected that to happen.
So he just expected him to be trapped by the chess, and then what was he going to do?
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what the Doctor's end game was, other than...
I mean, he is working with the merman. I mean, he's telling the merman before that,
so he's hoping that was going to happen. But that
suicide
was
yourself with him. It's a weird end. I feel like the double suicide is so strange. Because the Serpent Man is a sympathetic character in a way. I mean, he's evil in the sense that he's killing people for blood, but he was also ripped out of his own time, according to Dan, which makes sense. You know, he's from the future, and his world is in terror, and so he's thinking of his people too. He's not completely evil, and then he just kills himself at the end.
But he also killed all of his people.
I guess. It's depressing. All right,
Guys,
do we have anything else? Notice we have no reviews.
No new reviews.
Thanks
we need some reviews on those iTunes, people, please. And if you want to send us an email, you can do that at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com. You can visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/TODWS, on Instagram at instagram.com/TODWshow. And you can check out our website at theolddoctorwhoshow.com. You'll see all of our 75 reviews.
Yeah, if you go to the episodes /schedule page, you will see links as well as DVD Blu-ray links. If you want to buy one off of that link, I think we get something, but we have never actually gotten anything, so I don't even know where that money goes. You will also notice that we have just
Eric's driving a brand new car just on proceeds from...
Yes. Curse of Fenric. Yeah. Which means there's only one
more
story left.
One more story.
And then it's Doctor Who the movie.
Which we're dying for. So Survival is the next one. That will air on May the 1st, be with you. And then we'll be doing the Doctor Who movie the 22nd. Well, maybe we'll do something special for that.
Yeah, and then after that, you'll see we are going to go back and revisit. So if you want to
kill ourselves,
yeah, we're probably
sure.
double suicide. If you want to get to if you want to get to what? If you want to get to my heart, you can send us something at PO Box 21. What is it? 2183 2181. What's our PO Box? PO Box 2131, Red Bank, New Jersey 07701 for real things. But that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say send us what stories you want us to review now, because once we finish this, we got to come up with a final list.
Yep.
And that's
because we're not going to go back and do every single story.
I don't want to do every single story. And I don't want to keep jumping around. I like going in order because I'm very uptight.
But we don't want to miss anything. We want things to kind of make sense as we go. So go back and let us know. We didn't have the first and second Doctor, very many stories of those available to us on Netflix at the time when this whole shebang started. So we're really curious to see what are the ones we really cannot miss, especially in those first two. We did a lot of Tom Baker, and I
would do more Tom Baker. For me, it's like the 70s are my golden
Who.
I'm a little nervous about doing some of those like 6-part older ones, you know.
Maybe we'll find a different format.
7-part. I mean, I'm sure they're great.
Maybe we'll only watch a couple of this episodes and we'll just pretend we know the whole story. It's fine.
It's fine. We haven't done that yet, but maybe there will be one that we do without actually having watched it.
I feel like some of the people listening to this are like, we don't think you actually watched any of them. So that's cool.
It's all good. All right, so that should do it.
That's
right?
it. That's all the stuff.
All right, thank you for being with us.
Yeah.
Send us some stuff. What? I'll cut that part out.
Leave that in. I want more dead air before it, though, because it's perfect.
All right, can we be done with this forever?
Well, I guess it would be nice if I could touch your body. I know not everybody has got a body like you, but I gotta think twice before I give my heart away. And I know all the games you play because I play them too. Oh, but I need some time off from that emotion. Time to pick my heart up off the floor. Oh, when that love comes down without devotion, well, it takes a strong man, baby, but I'm showing you the door. 'Cause I gotta have faith.